Welcome to Smile Radio. We're here tonight on T C Talks. Over to you, TC.
It's great to be back. Thursday night. We're joined again this week by Niall after a week off. Gallivanting.
Yeah. Leon Bridges took me off a time, so back now.
Yeah, good to have you back now.
Yeah, good to be here.
It's good to have Richard, other mics off Harrison, controlling all the gadgets in here.
One job.
We had one job to do. So tonight we're going to be talking about social media. For some of us, I'll say my generation, social media is a new thing that was, over the last 10, 15 years has come into our lives. For Niall's age group, I don't think you've known a life without social media.
No, not really. No, it's pioneered it's pioneeered me growing up, really. So we can't really, I don't know. We'll get into it, but definitely.
You don't know a life before it. So I think it's important that we discuss social media, the benefits of social media, the negatives of social media, how it's impacting this generation that are coming up, how it's impacting the older generation. I had a conversation with my mother the other day about the internet, and I mean, my mother's she's loosely on Facebook every now and again. But my sister piped up, and I was really surprised at my sister piping up saying she still uses teletext. Now, I didn't even know teletext was still a thing. Now I was looking at me like going, what the heck was teletext? But yeah, so teletext used to be the thing before the internet and before all social media. That's where you used to book your holidays to Benidorm.
There's a Peter Kay sketch, booked it, packed it, off.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's for some people they haven't got on the social media train, and that's also okay. But we just want to unravel it, see the benefits, see the negatives. Let's discuss where it's going to go, what we see the future of social media being, how it's impacted modern culture. So there's a whole load of things to talk about. But as always, we're going to start the show with an Irish tune. And when I was searching for these the other night, I'd forgotten about this band. And this band in the 80s, I think they only had one decent album, but in the 80s were fantastic. This is Hothouse Flowers, Don't Go.
Cut grass and it's filling up my senses, and the sun is shining down on the blossoms in the avenue. There's a buzzing fly hanging around the bluebells and the daisies. There's a lot more love in her left June. So don't go, don't leave me now. While the sun's trying, stick around and laugh a while. And I lie warm. Sandy beaches and my toes are submerged in the water, and it feels good. Children playing, building castles on the shoreline like a painted that love and Lord. It feels so fine. Don't go, don't leave now. While the sun smiles, stick around, laugh a while. Horses and they're coming at me at a pace now, and there's a blue Sirocco blowing warm into my face. The sun is shining on the underside of the bridges, and the cars going by with smiles in the windows. There's a black cat lying in the shadow of the gatepost, and the black cat keeps telling me, look, it's on this way. There's a black cat lying in the shadow of the gatepost, and the black cat tells me, look, it's on this way. Don't go. Don't leave us now. While the sun smiles, stick around, laugh a while, yeah. Stick around, laugh a while. Oh, don't go.
Just had a question there from Richard. What's my all-time favourite Irish song? I'll have to come back to you. I'll have to bring that out at Christmas, on the Christmas edition. Great song there from Hot House Flowers, and as the All Blacks found out at the weekend, you just can't beat the Irish. It's one of those things, it's fantastic. Okay, nice and quickly, social media, good thing, bad thing?
Oh, don't ask me that, because...
No, good thing, bad thing?
I couldn't tell you, honestly. I don't know.
Good thing.
Good thing. I think the fact that we are communicating now, live on Facebook, communicating through the internet, social media, promotion of Smile Radio, promotion of everything we talk about is done through social media. So for me, it's hugely beneficial and positive in the messages we can get out there almost instantaneously. It's been a phenomenal growth over the last, I think even the last 2 or 3 years, of different things that have come in. The Facebook Live, Instagram have now gone live as well. Twitter I've never really caught on with that Periscope thing. Doesn't really work for me. It's never really caught on with the same way as Facebook Live has, and the same way as Instagram has. Instagram, I think, has really kicked in for Niall's generation. Instagram stories, all sorts of things that have really just popped up over the last few years. Now, I'm going to take us back to a time before there was ever social media. Do you remember those days, Richard?
I do. And before we didn't, I remember times when we didn't have the internet.
Yeah, no internet. It was a landline.
Yeah.
If you wanted to arrange a night out, I always tell this story to my kids. My mate Nicky Wilson wanted to go for a night out. He would run from Kirkhamgate, where I lived, down to Renthorpe. Where he lived, down to Renthorpe, where I lived, and knock on the front door and say, "You going out tonight?" And I go, "Yeah, I am, Nick." "Great, I'll see you later on. What time are we going out?" And I'd run back home. That's like a 1.5 mile run. He ended up joining the Royal Marines, didn't Nick? So he was a fitness fanatic anyway. But even though we had a landline, he decided he'd communicate face to face. That's just the way he worked. But we had landlines, and that was it. That was your only communication. You could write a letter. When was the last time you wrote a letter, Richard? Like a handwritten letter?
God, I can't remember.
Years.
Yeah.
How many? Have you ever written a handwritten letter?
It must. I bet it's about 10 years. 10 years ago since I last wrote a letter.
Yeah.
A handwritten letter.
Yeah. What about you now? Have you ever written a handwritten letter?
We used to do them in like sociology, in high school we'd write like letters to the Queen and stuff like that when we were doing. I don't know what we were doing.
You never told me about this.
Well,
letters to the Queen. Do they not know who your father is?
It's hard like we get a response from any of them, but.
Good job. Who's been writing to my son?
Oh God.
Queenie.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need to stop that. We're alive on air, aren't we? God bless you, Mum. So that's the only letter you've ever written was to the Queen.
Yeah, not intentionally.
So I mean, that's how we used to communicate. We used to write letters. We had landlines. In business, it was certainly in the construction industry. If something was going wrong on site, the foreman would go to a payphone and ring the office, and you'd have to drive to wherever the site was to find out what was going on. So there was not really any great communication. Now, I know we're talking about social media, but I think the first thing that really kicked it off was emails. Getting an email was the first thing, and it's developed. I think it's developed since then, from the advent of the email, where people realised you could use this thing called the internet to communicate. And I think, would you agree with that? Is that where it all began, do you think? Social media?
Yeah.
Is the internet, because we forget about the email, how important the email has been. Would that be classed as social media in the early days?
Well, see, I've never seen email as that important. Obviously, I've just grown up with a generation that have been suited to everything else.
Had it,
yeah, so I can't really say anything about email, but I like to think about the story of how Facebook was created. Mark Zuckerberg using it, and email was quite key in how he developed Facebook into something that it is today. He had the bit of the more taboo way of saying it's just a way to check out girls. That was his aim, and eventually now you look at it now, and we're currently watching a radio show on it. You know what I mean?
Right,
like there's it's developed from something so small something that's huge. You know, it's just
And I think the email really was because he emailed around his campus, I believe.
yeah,
saying, "Look, you want to join this?"
He hacked into the
university
database
domain.
and emailed, got all the emails and emailed it all out because it was, there were pictures of, or not particularly nice pictures of.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost for those who use Tinder, if you swipe left or right, wasn't it?
That's
Either
it,
you
yeah.
liked it or you didn't.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think he allegedly.
Yeah, it's
nicked
very
the-
illegal what he did. very illegal.
Yeah.
But
Nicked the idea of Harvard, I think it was, or somebody
But
there.
it's using that
something like
communication, using the email as a communication, social communication. I think that's what social media has grown up to be. It starts, I think, in its infancy, has been a social communication. Has it continued in that vein, do you think? Is it just social communication? Or has it developed into something more? Is it a business? Obviously it's a business, but do people just see it as a communication device?
oh no, it's more multiplex now. There's so many layers to social media now that you can't even count them all. There's Instagram, for example. Instagram is, you know, models can use that to exhibit basically what their jobs and use that as a basis of getting employers, getting sponsorships, getting whatever. Businesses use it to promote their products. They put pictures on it from anywhere, Facebook, anywhere. They get comments back saying, "Oh, I love this product," or even anything is like, you know, customer databases, you know, where they can say, "Oh, I don't like this product." You don't even need to go to a forum anymore. Just comment on the post on social media, and the company half the time replies to your comment and says, "Oh, this is, you know, we'll have a look into this." Just drop us an email.
So it's changing the way we're doing business. It's changing the way you can get employment. I think I remember the story of Gary Vaynerchuk, who's become quite popular via the social media, certainly through Twitter. And he was talking about when he started up his media business, he spoke to some executives at Coca-Cola. I believe it was Coca-Cola. If I'm wrong, sue me. You'll not get much. I believe it was Coca-Cola, and he had a meeting, and he describes these guys as grey men in suits. And he says they turned around to him and said, "We don't see social media as being a big thing." He says, "You're absolutely crazy." He says, look at how many followers I've got. Look at what you're missing out on." And he eventually got them to realise that social media was the thing that they had to follow. And he says, "Have you got a social media account?" Yeah, we've got a guy on it." "How many followers have you got?" Now, bear in mind, this is Coca-Cola, probably the biggest brand, I would say, in the world. You know, everybody knows Coca-Cola everywhere you go. There's 50 followers on Twitter. 50. And Gary Vaynerchuk was like, "Is that a mistake? Is that 50 million? "No, it's 50. And he was like, "Well, we can change that quite quickly." And he took over the media, and obviously, gone from, you know. But I think for us, I mean, you're talking about models getting work through Instagram, and businesses putting out products and getting feedback from a faceless customer. And that's what I see it as. And for a model to be able to get work because she's put a picture on a social media account that can be edited, it can be anyone can do anything with that picture. It can be airbrushed. It's, you know, and as we all know, a lot of these photographs are staged so well that it's not the reality. For my generation, I think I still struggle with some of this. I struggle with the speed at which it goes. I struggle with the fact that people are making a living. I can't get my head around the fact, how can you make a living from sponsorship of stuff you put out, your own opinion, on the internet? I don't get it. I really struggle with the concept. I kind of know the concept, but I struggle with the concept. I see fitness professionals, certainly when I was in the fitness industry, I see fitness professionals making hundreds of thousands of pounds a year from putting on something on an Instagram story. Are we losing the human touch? Are we losing that human connection though, with people not having to go for the job interview? Are we losing that people don't have to go and see the personal trainer anymore? They can get it via a faceless person behind a screen on social media. Are we losing the human contact?
Do you want my honest opinion?
That would be nice. You can lie to me if you want that.
I mean, no, I don't think I'll do that. I say yeah. I think we are. I think disconnect and the human interaction is becoming less and less every time something pioneers in technology. As great as it is, you know, because obviously without it, when it first started up, you wouldn't know anyone. Like say from my generation, I was at like, there's usually high schools of like 2,000 kids. You're not going to know every single one of them, but it's social media makes that world a lot smaller, and you can eventually connect with people that you never thought you would, and end up in places that you never thought you would. Making new friends, going new places, figuring out new music that you like. It's all there, but as you get older and start to realise that these vast amounts of high school friends that you've all got aren't going to stay there forever, and you're going to end up moving on in life. I think the connection stuff, you get older and you start to appreciate it more, and then but social media's its priority in your life tends to diminish it a little bit. There's been a lot of connection issues I've had recently with people, even good friends of mine, just because messages don't convey face to face the same thing.
Well, we've spoken about this on almost every show we've done. That the key to all these subjects, depression, addiction, all these sorts of things, is communication.
100%.
That's the key to how we survive as humans. So I don't want to be too negative about social media so early, because, but I do want to get this point across. That depression's on the rise, addiction's still on the rise. People are feeling sadder and lonelier than they've ever felt before. Yet we're supposed to be the most connected generation. We've never been as connected from social media than we've ever been. It's never been easier to communicate with people around the world. I had a Skype call last week. Somebody in Glasgow. I can Skype call mates in America, Australia. I can be on the Skype and connect with people on a face to face almost. But yeah, people still feel lonely. People still feel like they're disconnected. So something's not quite working with it. Something's just not. I struggle sometimes to find the words, because I see how Oliver and Orla, my children, are getting on with it, and Oliver loves it. He loves the YouTube. He loves Orla loves Instagram. She's got an Instagram art account. She's sharing her art. But I do fear that they're stuck behind screens, and they're not having that. They're not understanding what face-to-face contact is. And then when you go face-to-face, and somebody says, "I don't agree with you,"
yeah, you
can't block them. In real life, you can't go, "Oh, where's the block button?
Yeah.
I don't like that bit," and they become offended, and they become upset, and they become depressed. And I think that's where possibly we need to engage our younger people a little bit more.
And you also find that again, this is only my opinion for it's worth, a lot of people become keyboard gorillas, where they'll vent the spleen behind the keyboard, and when you're confronted face to face, they almost go mute, because that social interaction of being able to have a debate and actually have a conversation, and actually I don't agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
That element is lost. I mean, I won't mention names, but somebody who's not too far away, Zoe, wouldn't pick up the phone and ring for a taxi, as daft as it is. I mean, that's only a few. She went to work at Morrison's, another supermarkets that are available, obviously, and she was on customer service, and that was a baptism of fire, where you had to physically gulp. I've got to speak to somebody, and she got amongst it, and she did it. But I do think this generation now, sure, it sound like my dad, but have lost the capability of being able to socially interact on a face-to-face level.
Yeah, and I do think our generation is struggling with it as well, because we see it now as an easy option. Oh, I don't have to speak to him. So certainly when I was going through my depression, one or two friends thought it was okay just to click like on a comment when I was talking about being depressed. They would go, "Oh, well, that's me done." When really what it should be is, all right, let's pick up the phone and ring them, or go and see them, knock on his door, and find out what's going on.
I've just got a comment. I think this is from Chris Oakland, aka Fabio.
Fabio.
Social media has created a new sort of isolation. So social media creates falsehoods, and conversation is a dying art form.
I agree with that. I do think that we are struggling. I don't think the conversation is a dying art form. I think people not being able to accept somebody else's point of view face to face.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I mean, I've started off quite negative, which is unfair, really, because I don't think I'm giving it the credit it's due. Because really, it's not the isolation of it. Sure, is a thing, but really, it's more of a case of people aren't finding or people are looking into meanings that don't exist half the time in conversations because there's no. Well, I do linguistics at university, and we always look at tone of voice, and we always look at conversations in person versus conversations on a text, and you find that emojis are probably one of the most beneficial things because you can tell almost feeling from it.
Yeah.
But you take that out and you take away that.
That's what I talk about this at home. Unfortunately, it depends on your frame of mind. It depends on your mood.
Mm-hmm.
I can send a text to you and say, "Oh, shut up, Tom."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You could think that could be, "Shut up, Tom." Oh, shut up, Tom.
That's right.
That's it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
And you cannot tell tone of voice, and it's all down to interpretation of how you are feeling as an individual.
100%.
And that's the bit that we're losing, I think. I mean, in regards to the positive side of social media, I mean, it's amazing what it has done and what it does do for individuals. Like the charity that I'm involved with, the social media side of that has been so positive. We've got Nazir Asfal, who's he's now a patron. Thank you.
That's
bless him.
fantastic.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
But that's the positive side of social media and enabling to spread the message, to spread, like what we're doing now and what and what you've done. I mean, I know you wrote the book, which is available now, isn't it? For those who are stocking filler.
Yeah, just remember it's coming up to Christmas.
Yeah, it's a nice little stocking filler. Yeah, yeah.
It's not about the beard.
Exactly. But as daft as it is, but it's been able to. Joking apart, it's an opportunity to get your message out there, and actually, if you, pardon the pun, Tom, but if you can make a drink out of it,
Yeah.
also, do you know what I mean? It's a good opportunity to use that medium to get your message out there.
100% agree. And just on the emoji thing, Zoe, I'll not say which post this was, but Zoe made the mistake of she meant to put the sad face or post, or the heart to love this post, and with her dodgy fingers she ended up pressing the ha thing. Now this was definitely not a ha post, but rather than the person private messaging her and saying, "Look, have you made a mistake here?" Because that's they kicked off alarming on the Facebook post, and I got a phone call off this guy who runs this page. Look, what's going on? Now I've spoken to him about it. She genuinely just made a mistake. But like you were saying, it depends on the other person's frame of mind. And they read it and saw this laughy face. And rather than going, well, that must be a mistake, they automatically thought, we've got a troll here. This troll's trying to upset us. Well, it wasn't the case. So it can be, make sure you've pressed the right emoji, guys.
Yeah.
And obviously when you're listening to us today, always press the love emoji, because you've got to love Smile Radio. Now we're going to break for a song. I think that's a good place to stop. We're just going to play. This is no relevance to social media, by the way. This is just because I like the tune. It's The Fray, How to Save a Life.
Step one, you say we need to talk. He walks, you say sit down, it's just a talk. He smiles politely back at you. You stare politely right on through some sort of window to your right. As he goes left and you stay right between the lines of fear and blame. You begin to wonder why you came. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere alone in the bitterness, and I put out stayed up with you all night. When I know how to save a life. grant him one last choice. Drive until you lose the road, a break with the ones you follow. He will do one of two things. He will admit to everything, or he'll say he's just not the same, and you'll begin to wonder why you came. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in a bitterness, and how could I stayed up with you all night? And I know how to save a life. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in a bitterness, and how could I stayed up with you all night? And I know how to save a life. How to save a life. How to save a life. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in a bitterness, and I would have stayed up with you all night. And I know how to save a life. Where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in the bitterness, and I would have stayed up with you all night. And I know how to save a life. How to save a life. How to save a life.
Good tune there. Enjoyed that song. We've just been talking when the song's been all about the art of conversation and things like that. And I think sometimes we can overtalk this. We've always had people in the back or behind our backs who have spoken about us. Who I think they're called trolls now, aren't they? We've always had those sorts of people, haven't we? Let's be right about it. They've always been around.
Yeah, I think it's evolved. Now, the thing is, with the social media culture, trolls these days have become a lot less harmful. I think, genuinely, if people are saying awful things, I think these days you just call them awful people. I think that's at least that's the way I've seen it now. But obviously, I can't speak for people younger than me now, because the internet changes that quickly and that rapidly. Culture changes that quickly and rapidly. I don't even know what Orla and Oliver, for example, what their thing is anymore. I don't know it. Like, I'm just used to my thing on the internet, and that now trolls are just people that make jokes these days. Just make jokes that some people might find offensive, and that's what we call them these days.
Certainly on some of the. I mean, if you ever go on any celebrities' Twitter page,
they'll call them trolls, definitely.
Oh man,
yeah, they'll call them trolls.
But when you see some of the abuse they take as well,
yeah.
some of the abuse that gets handed out, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, why would you put yourself in that position? I know that's the wrong thing to say. They're allowed to use social media, but some of the abuse that gets handed out to celebrities on a daily basis, it's just like, why would you do that?
And the thing is, as well, some of it, you just think to have a sense of humour. I remember, I joke with my proper job, and there was a conversation today about the dishwasher not being emptied, and I made a throwaway comment.
No, you didn't. Oh, no, you didn't.
But I do it to get a rise out of some people, I say, well, at the end of the day...
So I know what joke you were going to make.
Yeah. So, and I am, for those little while listening, I genuinely, I am joking, but I did say, well, it is women's work. And I stood back, lit the blue torch paper, and shit. But it is a joke. But again, if you did that on social media, you'd get somebody ridicule. I remember Phil Neville doing, and he's women's England football coach, and I took that when I read it as a joke, a genuine joke, but people get a grasp of it and then run with it and make it out of something that it isn't.
I think that is the thing. It's an opportunity. Social media has given people an opportunity to get their point of view out there, regardless of who they upset. regardless of who's on the receiving end of it.
I tell you what, I've got a pretty interesting story related to this topic. So I've been on Twitter on and off, and I'm pretty bad at social media. Like I'm saying, I'm from the generation that uses it. I'm awful at it. Like I just don't know what to do anymore. But I was on Twitter for a while, and I followed this model. She's called Justine Bittercon, I think. And she put something on about how she was wearing like a really cool outfit, and everyone who wasn't wearing her outfit, it was something along the lines of, "You're too poor to wear my outfit." And I replied to it just saying, "Well, this is a bit awful, isn't it? Saying that poor people can't wear your outfits. Does that make them less important?" So I dropped that in the comment section, and it got loads and loads of likes. I wasn't expecting that. I don't use it much, but she actually messaged me. And this is someone who has, 600,000 followers, has got no time for anyone apart from herself, and she has a lot on her plate. Privately messaged me and said, basically she was clearing up what she said and said that she doesn't actually think like this. It's just more of a mindset. But I think because I got some traction with the comment and people were like, yeah, this actually makes kind of, a bit of sense. Why would you be so insensitive to poorer people who, look up to you on social media almost in a sense? Why would you do that? She eventually had to, confess and just say, look, this isn't really what I think. And I think I was half-heartedly believing it. Like, yeah, I'll take it for now. It's brave enough to private message someone you don't know and just explain what you mean. So I was like, all right, fair enough. At least you've taken the time out to explain yourself. That's fine. But from that point, I always thought, it's funny how small the world's become now. I can get private messages from someone who's got 600,000 followers, and there's people on the comment sections of Instagram models and stuff that get replies and that. It's just it's crazy how small the world is now.
Yeah, I mean you're never. I mean, fair play to that lassie for coming back to you and having a debate about it.
Yeah.
And just to go on that, being so close to your heroes. You know my story of Barry McGuigan.
Oh yeah.
So Barry McGuigan, for those of you that don't know, if you're born in Belfast in the 1980s, we had two heroes really, with Dennis Taylor and Barry McGuigan. And Barry McGuigan, I sent my book to his gym, just because he supported me through the run. He sent me a few tweets every now and again to support me through the run. So I sent him a book and said, look, would you give it a read? Let me know what you think. I thought nothing else of it, and about 2 months later, started getting private messages from Barry McGuigan thanking me for the book and that he'd read it and he'd really enjoyed it. And I was like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy that I'm sat here having a text or a Twitter conversation with my boyhood hero. Now that's when you know that social media is absolutely fantastic. When you can have that connection with those people and to have that connection with somebody like Barry McGuigan, it's just outrageous. What do you call Alice Cooper? Also tweeted us during the run. I mean, imagine getting Alice Cooper tweeting you during your run across America because you're a recovering addict and he's a recovering addict, supporting you and that sort of thing. That's when social media for me starts to come into its own. When people actually engage properly with it. Yeah. When you start to have proper conversations. When you can communicate two ways and go, this is it. Now, rugby league stars are really good at this. You tweet a rugby league player, 9 times out of 10 they're going to come back to you with a message. Jimmy Peacock's really good at it. There's a few lads out there, Paul Wood, a really good lad. If you send him a message, they'll always send you one back. I'm not too sure about footballers. Not too sure if you sent David Beckham. Mind you, he's not even.
I was going to say, I wouldn't encourage everyone to start sending messages to everyone just to see if they'd reply to them.
I think we should do that, yes. I think we should call it. This is a call to arms, people. You find out your celebrity and send them a direct message if you can and see if they reply to you.
Just a quick note. Dan Jowett said, did she send you that outfit, Niall?
Unfortunately not, no. I'll get back to her and ask for it, though.
I knew you were going to get some stick for that jumper.
Yeah, jeez.
Well spotted, Dan. Me and Dan think alike. Yeah, so that connection with almost with your hero sometimes, you could also use it to channel your interests. So whatever you're interested in, I think that's a phenomenal thing to have as well.
Definitely.
Where you're able to focus on what you like. So, for me, I don't know if people know this, but I'm a bridge geek, so I follow the Forth Road Bridge because I get all these pictures from the Forth Road Bridge.
Oh
It's
my
really,
God.
it's really sad, isn't it? I know that, but that's my thing. Bridges are my thing. I
God,
really like
that's
the
so
bridges.
cool. Oh my God. Whoa.
There's no need. Look, I've got a troll in the studio.
I bet they call winter nights flyby.
You can't beat a bit of bridge porn, I'm telling you. It's phenomenal. All right, don't talk. Shall we talk about the Brooklyn Bridge?
Yeah.
No, we're not talking about that. But so you can focus your interest, however weird they are, and you can focus your interest, and you can find somebody out there that actually has the same interests as you. And I think that's phenomenal on social media, that you're able to find those people who you really wouldn't. You'd have to join like a club or a fan club or something like that before you would have those sorts of people. You know what I mean? So
There's always a niche for it, isn't there? Like, the internet's that broad and that. Well, it's. I'm saying it's a small world, but it's that broad with how small it is in a weird way. That there's always a niche for you. And there's always something out there for you. If you Google the right thing, you can find something if you want it. You know, there's always a market for anything out there. I mean, right now, I currently have a writing account on Instagram, and it's it's a niche that isn't really explored much on Instagram because it's mostly just pictures and art. But there's an audience there. It's weird, like
what's your handle on it?
It's
Do you wanna
called.
share it?
Yeah, sure. It's called At the Pages. It's just a little thing that I do. I do poetry and short stories and stuff like that. But yeah, I made it a public account recently. Just to try and see what I can engage with. But it's interesting to find that niche on social media, which is another benefit.
So this leads me to a question. I think this is Chris again. He said, "Ask Tom if the power of the pen is still greater than the power of the keyboard."
I would say not. I would say not. I think the days of somebody writing something in a book and getting more traction than something that's on social media, because social media changes so quickly, because the news changes so quickly, and because people want different things so quickly, unless you're writing another Harry Potter, I think you will struggle to get the same traction as you would get writing stuff on the internet. And I think for me, the internet is where most journalism, most writers are going to end up on. I think that I'm not going to say that it's killed the book as such, because there's plenty of books about, and there's actually been a resurgence in people buying books again. But I still think that if you want information and you want it fast, is what people want now, social media is the way to go. It's definitely the way forward,
Yeah, there's an example of that would be, I don't know if you know the poet Rupi Kaur. She created 2 series of books, one called Milk and Honey and the other called something to do with flowers. But she created all of her poetry on Instagram, like through posts, and she shared it out. And she's managed to make millions off these books. Just releasing them on. She released them on Instagram as posts, then just compiles them in a book, sells them, and has made so much money off it. It's interesting to see how platforms that you wouldn't think of end up benefiting people in such weird ways. You don't see Stephen King posting his stories on Instagram nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's so. In answer to Chris's question, I think this social media is definitely, if you're going to be a writer, if you're going to do anything now, you've got to have a social media presence.
Yeah, definitely.
As a matter of fact, if you do anything now, I have a friend of mine who's running an electrical and plumbing business, needs a bigger social media presence. And we've had this discussion today. Needs to be out promoting it more on social media. The positives of his business. It's free advertising for people, and I think that's the thing that some people are still we're still struggling to realise, that this is a great opportunity. It's never been a better opportunity to be in business, because in the old days you have to put an advert in a free paper or in the Wakefield Express, or other newspapers are available, and you'd have to hope that somebody would read that article or read your advert. Well, you don't need that anymore. Put some paid accounts on Facebook, paid adverts on Facebook, and you can get some real traction. So I think as a business owner, social media is a no-brainer. From a writer or an artist, social media is a no-brainer.
Only thing I'd say with that is, I think we're about to come on to the personal side of things. Don't let it consume the way that you live, because it tends to be a front for a lot of people. They put pictures on of their life, and people tend to think that version of them is the reality, which isn't true at all. You've still got behind the scenes of that. There's actually a really interesting model who posts before, like almost like a behind the scenes thing, where she describes the methods of, taking the right picture and the lengths she has to go to, sitting in like salt baths and starving herself. And it's quite bleak, really, but in the reality of it, she's putting the truth out before she's putting the whole feigned thing, the veil of, if you like, of her life. It's not as glamorous as it all seems. People's lives on the internet aren't as glamorous as it all seems. Just don't let it consume the way that you truly are.
Do you think we'll ever get to the stage where people are more honest on social media?
No, I think that it'll pioneer that much, because technology is always evolving, and they're always evolving in a direction of making people seem better on social media or creating more of a presence, because it generates money for social media. You got to think these accounts and these apps are companies looking for more revenue, so they're going to pioneer more and more ways of making you want to promote this whatever you've got on social media. Keep it going, but that's not to say that you can't live your life properly without social media being the prime presence of your life. It's not saying that like there's so many positives that people overlook. I mean, it's a beautiful love-hate thing, with it. As long as you take a bit of time out to call people, talk to people face to face, have these confrontations that we're talking about, that's brilliant. But also have the fun side. Take a couple of cool pictures of your mates and put them on the internet. It's a laugh.
Yeah, don't forget, if you want to get in touch, Smile Radio Yorkshire.
Yeah, there we are.
Instagram, Smile Radio 3, and Twitter as well.
That's the one.
And that's again, can you imagine, Richard, if you tried to get you this, because we've spoken about this being your dream, this being your ambition. Can you imagine you trying to get through the FM, buying a license to be on the FM stations, getting the traction for that, getting the funding for that? And I know you've invested money in Smile Radio to get to this point, but can you imagine trying to do that and compete with the big boys?
Not a chance.
Not
an absolute chance. No, even with the larger commercial stations, I'm in touch with a lady who's a presenter coach called, believe it or not, Kate Cocker. That's her name, and she's brilliant. Yeah. And I had a session with her last night, and we would do some of the shows that I do, and I'll send little sound snippets of what I've done out of shows, and it's just, I made all sorts of little scribbles, but again, I do with my interaction with her is through like Skype, but getting back to the social media side of things, I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing now without the help of things that are available now. Yeah. And like as you said, I mean, again, please don't quote me on it, but I think to even apply for an FM license, and you're not necessarily going to get it. I think it was something stupid like 25 grand or something. It's ridiculous. Unless it's a community project where it's subsidised to a degree, but.
A lot of money. So social media has given us a good outlet, a good opportunity for people to try new things, try new YouTube channels. We're going to play a Stormzy track next, and that's grime music that's come up. That was really YouTube that promoted that. What was the name of the channel now?
Well, the channel, I don't think it was a channel that promoted his thing, but SBTV are a key channel for the grime movement, to promote things.
And that, obviously the music was already on the ground. It was already in the certain parts of London and places like that. But in order to get to a wider audience, social media played a huge part in influencing where this music went. So this is Stormzy and Blinded by Your Grace.
I'm blinded by your grace. I'm blinded by your grace, by your grace. I'm blinded by your grace. I'm blinded by your Lord, I've been broken. Although I'm not worthy, you fix me. I'm blinded by your grace. You came and saved me. Lord, I've been broken. Although I'm not worthy, you fixed me. Now I'm blinded by your grace. You came and saved me. One time for the Lord, And one time for the cause. And one round of applause, one time for Fraser T. Smith on the chords. I think we got one. I stay prayed up, then I get the job done. Yeah, I'm Abigail's youth, but I'm God's son. But I'm up now, look at what God's done. Nah, real talk, look at what God did. On the main stage, running around topless. I phone flips, then I tell him that we got this. This is God's plan, they can never stop this. Like, wait right there, could you stop my verse? You saved this kid and I'm not your first. It's not by blood and it's not by birth. But oh my God, what a God I serve.
Lord, I've been broken. Although I'm not worthy, you fix me. I'm blinded by your grace. You came and saved me. Lord, I've been broken. Although I'm not worthy, you fix me. Now I'm blinded by your grace. You came and saved me.
I said a prayer this morning. I prayed I would find a way to another day. I was so afraid till you came and saved. You came and saved me. And the rain was pouring 'cause the sun faded away. Now I'm in a better place, no longer afraid. Blinded by your grace, you came and saved me.
I said a prayer this morning. I prayed I would find a way to another day. I was so afraid till you came and saved. You came and saved me. And the rain was pouring 'cause the sun faded away. Now I'm in a better place. Oh, I'm not afraid. Blinded by your grace, you came and saved me. Although I'm not worthy, you fixed me. I'm blinded by your grace. You came and saved me. Lord, I'm not broken. Although I'm not worthy, you fixed me. I'm blinded by your grace. You came and saved me.
There you go. Bit of Stormzy. Aye, who said that our generation don't get it? So we're coming to the final part of the show now, and I asked you a question at the start. Social media, good thing, bad thing?
I'm
Still not
no,
committal. Still
I'm still on the line because I see both sides of it. I see both because we usually try to think out like have one outweigh the other, but I see both of them, and it's difficult sometimes. Especially there's a lot of things going on with me and social media that I don't agree with, but there's also a lot of good things coming from it. So it's hard for me to balance the two out. As much as I like it, it's just
Okay, let me ask you another question.
All right, go on.
If you could live your life without it, or with it, which would you choose?
Without, 100%.
You go without.
I'd go without.
There you go.
I think
That's
without
interesting.
makes. I think if we went back to like, it's funny saying this because I've been recently playing a bit of Red Dead Redemption 2, a bit of a Wild West game set in 1899, and it's funny seeing the connections there with people because we always have a joke in my uni of there's a thing where he says, "Bill, I've come for you." So that's the rival. But the thing is nowadays, you just type that to someone and be like, I don't like you. And they might hear it or not hear it on the internet. But back then they had to go up to someone's face and say, I don't like you at all. Let's fight right now. Yeah. And I always think that's really funny. Yeah, it's really interesting to see it.
I've got another question here, Tom. It says, does Tom think that his story deserves an ink and page version or the original 160 icon snippet? Would the original 160 icon snippet would it have got out there? Some stories deserve more than the Snapchat Instagram era.
I'm not entirely sure I can answer that one. So let's.
Yeah.
Who's read
I think it's another question from Chris. I think, does Tom think that his story deserved an ink and page version or the original 160 icon snippet? Would it have got out there?
Yeah.
Some it's my reading. Sorry, Tom.
That's all right. It's okay.
Some stories deserve more than a Snapchat and Instagram.
My story.
Well,
I don't think the word deserved is in it. It's whether it's worthy of a longer version. The 160.
I don't even think well worth and deserving it are almost two in the same thing. I don't even think it's that. I think it's whether you, I don't know, whether you feel like your story will impact. You know what I mean? I feel like worthy is one thing that someone else has determined for you. But if you feel like you can impact it, I'd say go for it. But
I think there are certain people's stories that need to be written down for history, for example. So there are certain stories that should be written down and should be told in longer versions. Because I do worry that some of these people who have become famous through social media, we won't remember them in 5 years' time. You know, there's some important people who are having a big influence in the world, and we're in danger of just losing them because there's so many of them. So let's make sure if you have got a good message to get out there, think about your longevity. Think about how you're going to stay in the game. Are you going to stay in the game just by staying relevant on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook? Because staying relevant in an ever-changing medium is going to be really difficult. So I think people have to think about their longevity. And I think that's where Chris's point comes in. Some people do need to write their stories down. Some people do need to get out the pen and start to write their books. Although, Chris, we don't write them on pen and paper anymore. We do actually use a keyboard. I have visions of Chris with a quill now, writing, scribing his life story, memoirs. But there you go. But yeah, so I do think is a very important point. That if we're going to impact the future, people have got to remember what we've done now. So history needs to have these people remembered, whoever those people decide to be.
Yeah.
So we can't lose those influences.
One of the things I wanted to just sort of Niall is the bad side of social media, and this is something that Donald Trump, fake news.
oh right, okay.
So
Yeah.
what's your thoughts about that? For me, I just think it's almost you pull the pin out of the grenade and you throw it and you stand back and wait for the carnage. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
The fake news thing has always been there. Let's go back to the Sunday sport days. Alien pulled my pants down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's that. Now you'll not remember the Sunday sport, but the Sunday sport was disgraceful journalism. It was just complete lies from front page to back page. Even the sport was lies. Yeah, it was all just lies.
Was anything? I mean, even the famous thing of, was it George Orwell that did War of the Worlds on the radio station, where people actually believed him,
Yeah.
and I ended up, like committing suicide and stuff because they believed that aliens were actually coming down.
Yeah.
That's the thing with media is that when it's used in the wrong way or the right way, it has adverse effects. I personally think they shouldn't give the president a social media account because it just derives.
I don't care.
Because it's
And his comment this morning about climate change was hilarious.
God.
Fake news has always been relevant.
Yeah.
I think the ability to put out more fake news and more fake. We haven't gone down this road tonight, thankfully. The rise of certain far right, far left, the rise of different groups who have been detrimental to worldwide security.
Yeah.
Have used social media for that purpose.
Yeah.
Talks of Russia influencing the American presidential election through social media. Talks of people, ISIS using it to recruit people, all that sort of stuff. Thankfully, we're not going to talk about that today. But the ability to put out fake news has never been greater.
Yeah.
The ability to put out your opinion on another person has never been greater. But we have to be careful. I think this is where the social message has to come through now, is we have to be careful going forward as to how we look after social media for the next generation.
Yeah.
Are we going to put more regulations on it, or are we going to allow it just to continue to grow into this thing that's controlled by multinational companies who are so much money, it's obscene. Are we going to allow them to grow, or are we, at some stage, are we going to say, look, hold on here, guys, we've got to get a handle on this. We've got to start saying we need to control the content.
Yeah, I think as well, just a little bit of a positive, like a last spin on it. I know that's a very important point, controlling the idea of what our social media usage is doing. At the same time, though, the people that are using it, just casually and actually, trying to make more and the most of their lives in connections and faces and, making human interactions more of a priority, I say to them, take it less seriously. If you're just posting a picture of your cat on, really, you're not doing much to affect the way that the social structure's going. If you're that person, it's just having a good time on social media, not doing much. Just keep going for it. Just keep doing that, doing what you're doing. But if you have an audience and if you have a purpose, if you have something to contribute socially, I'd say be very, very careful and be very, very aware of the social climate, everything around you. But at the same time, enjoy it. Enjoy it too. That's the thing. You're going to really enjoy
I think
it.
that is the thing. You have a responsibility when you're putting anything out there, putting out your opinion. That your opinion is well thought out and is kind. I always say, if a chance between being right and being kind, always choose kind. And I think for me, that has to be the way.
One of the things my dad used to say to me, and growing up, was if you just be nice. If you're in a situation, just be nice, because if you be nice, there's no way that can go from that. Just be nice, and I just think it's
the only way to be, and always be kind. And we're finishing tonight's show, so I'm going to finish by saying, if I had a choice between living with social media, without it, I'm going to go with social media. I love the thing. I think it's phenomenal. I think I regret the fact that I wasn't born 20 years later where I could fully embrace social media. I'm an old fogey trying to learn in a new world, but I'm enjoying it. I enjoy social media. I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy listening to the nonsense. But I also am very aware that I have a responsibility, even in this situation, to try and be kind to people. And we're finishing with a song tonight by the Foo Fighters. It's Best of You. But the reason we've chosen that tonight is when you're using social media, are people getting the best version of you? Are they getting the true person that you want them to see? And I think if you do that, then social media's got a big future, and we hopefully will all be able to enjoy it. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Niall for his input as always.
Yeah, cheers for having me again. It's been
Thanks
great,
to Richard, Mikes it off. Harrison as always for your input and for all your technical support as always. And hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, so thanks again, guys, and you'll be listening to TC Talk live on Smile Radio. If you want to listen again, you'll be able to download the podcast later on from iTunes, Podcast, and all other major podcasting availabilities.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Smoothly done, Richard.
Smoothly, yeah. I lost my trail of thought then, anyway. But thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got another confession to